All right, let's get it going. Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Thank you for taking the time to join our webinar today. Today, we're going to be talking about our bank API offerings. Again, I really thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend this webinar today. I understand things are always conflicting. Hopefully, by the end of today, you'll have a better understanding of what we offer as a vendor and how you can automate certain processes, as well as making sure you are meeting your compliance needs as well as your reporting needs. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. The title of your webinar today is Confirmation APIs, your exclusive efficiency upgrade. We're going to be talking about automating your workflow, specifically the activities that are related to confirmation, so how to auto answer confirmations. We'll talk about the ability to track and report on activities, so what your users are doing in our platform today. And finally, some new reporting APIs that we are pre-announced. This will shed some light on the ability to download completed confirmations as a form of machine-readable receipt to hopefully meet all of your data retention needs, as well as avoid any fines and make sure you are meeting all security and compliance standards set by your teams, as well as the regulators. So again, thanks again for taking the time today. I'm going to go ahead and get started by giving you just a bit of an introduction to myself. So my name is Mohamad Khanafer. I'm a senior product manager here at Confirmation Thomson Reuters. I also lead our APIs internationally. My key role is making sure our customers, both on the bank and the firm side, are fully equipped with what they need to find efficiencies and automation in their processes. I also work directly with third-party vendors. So some of you folks might be working with internal third parties. We also have some level of relationship with those folks. Automation is really my key passion. So I spend a lot of time making sure our customers are happy with our services and making sure you spend a little bit less time doing manual work and a lot more time doing more valuable work. Outside of confirmation, I thoroughly enjoy hiking and cycling, and most recently got into running. I'll be running my city's marathon in May, so hopefully you'll be able to see that somewhere. We do have an agenda for you folks. So we'll start off at the top just talking a little bit about confirmation. Several of you folks are existing partners and customers, but a lot of you folks are not. So we'll give a general overview of what we offer. We'll also talk a little bit about our security and what kind of licenses we have, just to make sure that we are meeting the best standards for you folks. And then we'll jump into what API products we do offer, just at a high level, kind of describing what we can and can't do with you folks. From there, we'll jump into API products and descriptions. So that's where we'll go into more depth about what our services are and how you can leverage them, as well as what other customers are doing today. So specifically, we'll talk about Auto Process, which is our main offering that allows you to automatically answer confirmations. But we'll also jump into the reporting piece. So namely, reporting on activity in the user interface, as well as making sure you are meeting compliance needs. This is our newest API and a huge value add for a lot of our banks, especially in the United States. Then we'll go ahead and mention some next steps. So how you can just contact us and work with us, and what is the process when you become an API customer. Finally, at the end, we will do a Q&A. I will call out just administratively, there is a Q&A button right here in the webinar. So you can post your questions, which I'll review at the end. You can also upvote or downvote other folks' questions. So just feel free to use that feature. It should be directly there up in Teams. I'll go ahead and get started. So what is confirmation? How does confirmation work? Confirmation is a really simple product to explain. It's one of my favorite products I've ever demoed in my career. The premise is quite simple, and we'll focus right now on what we call audit confirmations. There is a client. So for this example, let's just say Tesla. They are being audited by an audit firm. So that could be Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Ernst & Young, KPMG, any one of the audit firms out there in the world. What they want to know is they would like to understand the information or third-party verifications that are available on the bank side. The first step here would be the requester or the auditor will send an authorization request to the client and say, hey, client, do you approve this audit? The client will then do a digital signature that says, yes, I approve this audit. You can verify my accounts at my financial institutions. From there, the auditor will send a confirmation, so literally a verification, to the bank. The bank will then ingest the information and will check and see, okay, client is being audited. This is the account number I have on file. This is the information I have for this account, and then send back the information to the auditor. Our key value add is this closed ecosystem of requesters, auditors, and responders, banks, that ensures a large level of security throughout the audit process, all fully approved by the client themselves. This product is used internationally. We have over 6,000 banks or responders on our platform, and we have over 20,000 audit firms on our platform. We've been in business since 2003, and again, we are basically the gold standard in the space. Specifically, what you see here on screen is the audit workflow. This is what most folks use us for, which is really our traditional companies being audited by an audit firm, and the bank is responding to that. We have, however, transitioned to a different line of business as well that we now support. That's what we call asset verification. You'll notice the graph on screen didn't change too much. That's because the process is still the same. It's just the type of confirmations are a little bit different. Earlier, we were talking about clients that were being audited by audit firms, and then they were sending verifications or confirmations to the bank. Now we're talking more about individuals or smaller businesses that are looking for a different type of confirmation. Notable examples are some form of credit inquiry. In the US, we also have something called government benefit eligibility, which is also known as a HUD request or a housing request, or even things like Medicare and Medicaid. A fun way to think about this is asset verification is confirmation, but not in the audit world. Several of you folks are used to this in other spaces like the verifications of deposits, verifications of mortgage, any form of credit inquiries. HUD request is our most popular one. The workflow is the same. There is still an authorization. There's still a requester sending to a client who authorizes, which then goes to the bank, who then provides the information. It's just the entities are different and the confirmation types are different. In our world, we call that asset verification or AV. It's important to make this distinction. Historically, the APIs were only under the audit umbrella. What you'll see today is the APIs are also available for both audit and for asset verification, giving you a one-stop solution for all of your confirmation needs. One slide, or one thing I always like to mention as part of this process, is our security standards. You can see here there's a whole bunch of licenses that we abide by. This is not something you have to memorize. It's just something you kind of have to understand and know so that you are meeting your regulation or security needs internally when you choose us as a vendor. At a high level, we get pen tested several times a year. We are SOC 1 and SOC 2 compliant. We do have an SSO offering, but we also mandate multi-factor authentication. And then we are heavily tested internally through third-party vendors. What's most important about this is we internally have a security team that will work with your security team and make sure that when you onboard us as a vendor, we go through a full security process to make sure that we can be your preferred vendor from a security point of view. Again, this is a slide that I always like to include so that you folks have access to it and can show it to your internal teams. We do have a dedicated team, again, that will walk through this entire process with your security teams, completely separate of you onboarding to our platform or our APIs. Awesome. Now, to talk about our offerings. The first offering we'll be talking about today is our bread and butter. It's something we call auto process. It is the ability to automatically answer confirmations. It is a very simple API used internationally, especially in the United States. We have over 100 banks that use us today, and the concept is quite simple. You are able to pick up and answer confirmations throughout the day completely automatically with little to no human intervention. The second offering we'll talk about today is our request activity report. This API allows you to use us as a database. The idea is you can ingest all of our data, so all of your confirmation data from our services, and then display it on your side. So put it into a business intelligence tool, show it to your leaders, develop graphs, do any level of transformation. We just become sort of a data source, and you can slice and dice things as you please. The final API is called the Completed Response API. This is our brand new API and a huge thing we want to announce today. What we've noticed from the market is there's a large need to allow our responders, our banks, to keep a functional receipt, a final receipt of a confirmation internally. This will make sure you are meeting data retention needs, make sure you are meeting compliance needs, and make sure you are compliant with all regulations. We will talk a lot about this at the end of the presentation, specifically about how you may be at risk or you may have been fined due to some level of compliance changes in the market. So, starting off with auto process. Auto process just stands for automatic processing. It's sort of a portmanteau. The process is quite simple. An auditor will submit a confirmation to you. That's step one right here. Now, traditionally, if you are working in our user interface, there would be someone from the bank who would be logging in to the user interface, to the web, and answering confirmations manually. The process is really simple from a manual perspective. You are reviewing the information the auditor gave you. You go into your internal systems and do some level of client identification. Here's the client that's being audited. Here's the account number provided. The signatures on file. You then take that information from your system and then paste it into our system. And you're doing this over and over and over again. In general, when you're doing something over and over and over again, that's usually a good click to do automation. The key value add of auto process is instead of you having to do this back and forth, there would be automation that does that for you. So the way this would work is the auto process API will give you all of the relevant information: the client, the signature, the account number, the client name, first name, last name, email, everything you see today to identify the customer. On your side, your team would then consolidate said information and check on your internal systems to try and find that information if you have it on file. If you have it on file, the API will automatically answer the confirmation and send it back to the auditor, all completely automated. In a bit, I'll show you how other banks are doing this and how popular this workflow is. But the idea, again, is really quite simple. Data is sent, so confirmation is sent to you. The API will pick up the data. You'll do the match completely through automation, send back the information to the auditor. Throughout the day, you are answering all these confirmations completely through automation and a lot less manual work. What this typically looks like is we will work with you folks, and then you would have your technical team review our documentation and kind of connect to these endpoints. What's really nice about this is there's only 3 endpoints to connect to, and these endpoints will provide all of your automation needs to answer these confirmations. As I was saying earlier, this product is quite popular. Is usually the bread and butter, the go-to for most of our customers. That's why we started off with this one. As a friendly reminder, this is supported for both audit and asset verification. The reason why I mention this is a lot of our customers today are using this for audit requests. So typical examples are what we call assets, so cash balance or deposit confirmations, or debt, so something like a loan check or something like that. You can recycle some of that logic to just directly apply it for other confirmation types. So if you are doing HUD confirmations through us, or credit inquiry, or verification mortgage, that is all under the auto process umbrella, all something you could be leveraging today. Speaking a little bit on the numbers here, this product has been in the market for just a little over 9 years. Might be 10, don't check my math, please. But so far it's been really the go-to for a lot of our partners. We've got it down to a science on what works and what doesn't work for our customers. You can see on screen several key stats. Some of my favorites are really just the fact that we're international. We've built a use case for every bank worldwide. So we have users in the US, in the UK, Latin America, Germany, Spain, and APAC. I've personally worked with over 100 customers using this product. We have all top 5 banks here in the US. And then the last one right there at the bottom is really a big one. Uh, you are gaining a large amount of efficiency pretty much on day one that you go live. In the next slide, I'll show you most of our customers are achieving 80% automation as of day one. So here's a small sample of some of our banks that are using our product. The API is quite intelligent in the sense that it will auto-confirm anything it can. So it does have the ability to just auto-confirm as much as possible. And then from there, you can build custom logic to say either reject it or do some other workflow. The key workflow that is important here is the exception workflow. As a friendly reminder, once the confirmation comes in, the API will pick it up and will do a match on your internal systems. In your internal systems, if there is no match, you have 2 options. One option is you could strictly deny that confirmation. The other option would be is what we call exception, which says, hey, API, kick this out. The automation did not succeed here. Let's go back to the manual workflow. This makes sure there is someone at the bank reviewing the trickier cases. Internally, what we look for is a large confirm to exception ratio, which means you're confirming as much as possible and only a handful are being exceptioned. And that's what you're seeing here on screen. In general, our benchmark is 80-20. So 80% of your confirmations are going to be confirmed, and then the balancing 20 will be exceptioned. Most typically, the exceptions are simply the auditor giving you bad information. So the wrong account number, wrong client, wrong information for you to do a match. You can see on screen here, most folks are above 80%. I can tell you for a fact that first bank, I've obviously masked the bank names, but the first bank has over 200,000 confirmations a year. So that means that 80% of those are being auto-confirmed while the balancing are being processed manually. I can also tell you that the one in the third column has about 20 to 30,000 a year, depending on the year. And they are one of our best customers. They're doing about 96% auto confirm. So that's really definitely on the higher end. The record is 98%, which would be the before last column. So as you can see, lots of orange. It's exactly what we look for. Additional value add from us as a vendor, we do meet with you as part of your QBRs and we review these numbers and we tell you how to minimize exceptions. That's something we've taken a practice of. So myself and your sales account member or your account executive will coordinate with you to make sure we can bring these numbers down. Jumping away from auto process, I'm going to go ahead and start talking a little bit about request activity report. As we started speaking more and more to our banks and our partners, the common feedback we got was, what about how we're using the platform? How can we internally keep track of what is being used, not used, how we're delivering on SLAs, how is our business or how is our aging, and what can we do to make sure our stakeholders, our leadership have full track or full visibility of the confirmation activities that the teams are doing. From that desire, that need, is where this report or this API came about. What we saw is a lot of our customers were going into a web or a user interface and downloading a whole bunch of reports, putting those into Excels, and then doing some magic to make sure everything kind of worked for the whole process. Our response to that was this API, where you are able to use us as effectively a database and take all of your confirmation data, all on a regular schedule, and then from that, take that information and transform it whichever way you see fit. You can create reports, you can put it into business intelligence services like Tableau or Power BI. You can even just create automated Excel. So we have customers doing that. But the idea here is you control the data and you can do what you want with it. Another very fancy use case or unique use case is simply ad hoc reports. If you want to know how many confirmations were answered on January 8th, you can do that without having to reach out to us. The data is fully stored on your services, so you can just kind of keep track of all the activities all on your side. If you have a data team, sometimes called a DART team, they would own this process completely. So again, kind of just speaking to a little bit of the values here, you can create your own analytics and sort of ignore what is on our user interface. Our user interface just becomes something as an extra. You no longer have to kind of log in and do all that Excel magic. Your team has to do a lot less manual work, so you can just kind of keep that fully automated. All nightly report updates is what most folks do. You'll have full visibility and you can fully keep track of everything that's happening on confirmation because you own the data source. And so therefore you can transform the insights as you please. And one of my favorite value adds is you have the ability to report up to your leadership and your key stakeholders fully offline. So in your internal reporting tool, Tableau, Power BI, the data is being uploaded there and you simply have to monitor it from there. You no longer have to reach out or kind of mention it on the side. It's all fully available for you. We've seen lots of traction with this reporting API, especially as folks start to really want to center in on how much time is being spent on confirmation, as well as just making sure all of their data and activity is being tracked really well. From there, we saw the birth of a brand new API. This is what we call completed response. So I'll go ahead and skip over to that one. What we saw is not only banks wanted to make sure they have full track of the activity and what is going on and report up or report to their teammates, but they also wanted the final receipt. Once a confirmation is completed, there's a lot of valuable client information that banks have to keep internally, either for data retention or for compliance purposes. Right now, what banks are doing is they're going into our UI and manually downloading everything. The idea behind this API is you could store that data all internally on your side. So it's pretty simple. All you would have to do is once a confirmation is completed, you can send an API call and you would get the full machine readable confirmation. That means that all the data points you see in our web would be fully downloaded and on your system. Those data points would be available. So if you need to report on them for any reason, whether it's compliance, data retention, if clients asking for it, it is fully available in your database and not tied to our services. Another key reason on why this API came about is specifically in the United States, there was a regulatory issue or fine that came out for several banks. What had happened is several banks outside of confirmation for other vendors they were using, they were communicating internally through third-party messaging services like WhatsApp or iMessage or even Signal. The idea here is they were talking about work-related things through their personal messaging services or even through their work services. When the SEC got involved, several banks agreed to settlements and fines because of the requirement here to make sure what they called in-app messaging or off-channel messaging to be fully tracked and within compliance. This API is also a result of that. On confirmation, there is several ways where messaging is stored. There is activity log, which is the messaging between the bank and the auditor. That is a fully tracked conversation. There's also what we call internal comments, which is a fully tracked conversation amongst the bank users, just to kind of make sure the operations teams can keep track of their confirmation workflow. And the last one is the attachments. So that's the attachments added by yourself, by the client, or by the requester, so the auditor. All of those are within the compliance needs. And this is our answer to that. If you need to meet these compliance needs, this API, also paired with the request activities from the previous page, allows you to make sure you are reporting on this. That way you can make sure that you are compliant within a highly regulated industry. The idea here is you have full control of all free text and attachments being added to each confirmation, and you can, for as long as you've kept it on your services, on your servers, report up or report to the changes or communications. Again, this is something that did occur outside of confirmation, but we did have several banks reach out to us saying we are considered a vendor that does or excuse me, or falls under the SEC's requirements. And so we built this API to make sure all of our banks are compliant and continuing to comply for these within the industry. The last value here I've mentioned a few times, is simply data retention. We get emails all the time of folks trying to get older data or going into the web app to download completed confirmations. The idea here is you can simply do it directly through an API, store it on your side, do with the data what you will. Those are our 3 key offerings. Speak a little bit about some of the next steps or what our process is. When you become an API customer, I'm quite proud to kind of explain or show you what is the system or what you are signing up for as a customer. The first step is always a demo and just speaking to sales. I will often be on those calls or someone on my team will join where we will speak to you and your technical folks to make sure you are fully informed. It's pretty much a presentation you got today, but with a lot more detail, and we go into the nitty-gritty of the technical pieces here. We're also really happy to share documentation, info sheets, presentations, really just make sure you are fully empowered to understand us as a vendor and understand our products and services. Once we've figured out the commercials, at that point, you get assigned a consultant on our professional services team. This consultant is your buddy, your friend, your teammate. Their role is to onboard you to the sandbox environment, provide you with highly technical documentation, as well as access to our software development kit and our testing site. And what they will do is they will walk you through the entire process of onboarding to our APIs. We've done this several times, so we'll show you the recipe and what other banks have done. We'll walk you through the decision making, and we're also going to be your project manager here. We're going to do regular follow-ups with you and make sure you are on track to meet your goals. As you folks know, we are a seasonal business where Q1 is usually a really big peak, and then it kind of slows down a little bit through Q2, Q3, goes back up in Q4, Q1, and then it keeps going. We usually see a rush as we get closer to Q1, so now is the perfect time to engage with us, just to make sure that we can meet that Q1 deadline, so that your teams are not doing any manual work during Q1 of 2027. Finally, once the consultant gives you the go-ahead, and once the team is ready to go live, they will bring you live to production. And from there, you will have a specialized customer support team. This specialized support team is fully equipped to solve all confirmation issues, as well as any technical issues, and they're fully trained on our APIs. My opinion is a very large value add because you get tier 3 support. You also get to skip the line and speak directly to our consultants. So, last slide I have on here before I jump into Q&A. If you'd like to schedule a demo, we'd love to speak with you folks. There is a QR code here on screen. Feel free to scan it with your phone. I'll keep it on screen for a little bit. There's also a link right there at the bottom. It'll take you to the same place. It'll take you to a landing page where it'll say schedule a demo. You click schedule a demo, and someone from our sales team will reach out to you folks and make sure we can give you as much information as possible.